from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And I want to welcome you guys to drboycetv.com. This is the home for intelligent Black people. So if you're Black and intelligent, then this is the place for you. If you're not intelligent, then you need to go somewhere else because you're not going to enjoy these conversations because we are progressive, we are strong, we ain't afraid of nothing, and we love to build for the community and to learn and grow and become better people. Today, now I told you guys before that I was going to have the distinct pleasure of speaking with a guy for whom I have tremendous respect. His name is Willy T Ribbs, and Willy is he's oh sorry, scratch that. Sorry guys, sorry about that. Let me turn that off. Willy is he's a race car driver. He's a pioneer. He's a great man. He's accomplished a lot. And so without further ado, I'd like to ask my friend Willy, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing real well, doctor. We're in LA. We had the premiere, the red carpet premiere of Uppity last night. And it was a great reception. Yeah, it was a great premiere, and you know, a lot of people came, and you know, Jimmy Kimmel was there, and Richard Gant, and many others to enjoy it.
Wow. Well, you know, I'll tell you what, guys. Everybody who's watching, Willy's new documentary, it's called Uppity. It just came out on Netflix today. I have seen it. It is damn good, and everybody should watch it. And so let's start right there. So the title Uppity. I think I want to ask everybody in here before I ask Willy this question. How many of you have ever been referred to as an uppity Negro? Have you ever had anybody look at you funny, like who's he think he is? Who's he think he is to think that he's equal to or better than other people? Who is he to think he's actually as good as everybody else? Well, Willy, his documentary is called Uppity, and I'd like to ask you, Willy, where'd that title come from? Can you tell? Is there a story behind that?
Well, when I started my racing career in England, and when I was racing in England, and I won my first championship there, I went there to be a Formula One driver, and I had no problems there. I mean, we raced hard, and it was just great people to be around and compete with. And the environment of racing in Europe and England was fabulous. When I got back to the United States, I had won a championship, so it wasn't long when I started racing here in the United States that I picked up the tagline Uppity, and I didn't tag myself Uppity. The industry did, especially when I was in NASCAR. And it stuck, and I liked it. I liked the opposition. I like the fist fights after the race. That was a turn on to me. So, you know, Uppity was the title, and that's what Adam Carolla and Nate Adams, the producers, went with, because they asked me. They said, "Well, what do you think is a good title?" I said, "Well, there's only one." I said, "Uppity inward," and they said, "No. Let's just leave it at Uppity."
Well, we know what they meant, you know, and I think when you say uppity, people know what follows after the word uppity. And let me say this, you know, one thing I noticed when I watched the documentary was that, you know, you had a reaction to the racism that you experienced. I mean, you know, when you talk about race car driving, you're talking about, in some ways, when it comes to racism, you're talking about the worst of the worst. And your reaction, you know, when you say they called me this and they called me that, and they did this and they did that, and I loved it. You know, I think that really got the attention of a lot of people, that your attitude was actually the reverse of what people are used to. You know, people are used to, you know, black men just breaking down and buckling and crying and getting all sad because people don't like them. But you actually really embraced that and didn't let that slow you down. Can you speak to a little bit of that mindset and sort of where that comes from?
Well, you know, I knew that all of that was to get into my head and to you know, it's a mechanism to you know, to slow you down or to demoralize you. And I was actually, it was getting back at them because I was making fun of them while they were trying to do it. Believe me, I had words for them, and and it was sort of, when I told them, when I said it was arousing to me, they started, they slowed down. I said, actually, you guys are arousing me. And, and they said, this guy likes this. So they quit.
Wow. Well, what's funny is, your reaction to, as you mentioned, people trying to get into your head, and the way you kind of came back at them and you got in their head instead. I've seen that from other strong black men that I respect. I have a friend, and his name happens to be Willy D. And a lot of y'all in here know who Willy D is. Willy D was part of a hip hop group called the Ghetto Boys, and he's a good friend of mine. He's actually going to be in my wedding. And one thing Willy said that I thought was really interesting was he said, I'm not going to let you intimidate me, because there's nothing that you can do to me that I can't come back and do to you. And so it almost seemed that your competitive nature as a race car driver, the fact that you wanted to win, the fact that you were good and you knew you were good, it put you in a position where you were sort of like, okay, I'm going to be on the offensive. I'm going to put you on the defensive. I'm not going to be on the defensive. I'm just going to go out here and be me. So let me ask you about a little bit more about that, and ask you, I noticed that you had a strong father. If I'm not mistaken, his name's also William, right? William Bunny Ribbs, is that correct?
Yeah. My dad, William Sr., he was my intro to the sport. My grandfather was the patriarch. He was the tough guy. He's the one, when I lived on the ranch with him, he's the one that drove the toughness, and he had no tolerance for excuses. He had no tolerance for not succeeding. None. And so, being on the ranch with him, he gave me the toughness. My dad taught me the sport, because my dad did it as a hobby. And my family, my grandfather's business was very successful, and it allowed me to have the vehicles to do what I wanted to do. As a kid, I had go-karts, and as a kid, I had racing motorcycles. And then once I was a year and a half out of high school, I was sent to England, and it was all family money. So my dad gave me the vehicle, because it was his hobby. He gave me the sort of the seed, and then it was for me to go and make a career out of it, because my dad did it as a hobby, and I wanted to do it as a career. And all the people, with exception of Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jim Brown, I wasn't gonna. They were great role models, but my other role models were racing drivers. And all of them were white. It was Jimmy Clark, and it was Fangio, and it was Bobby Unser, and it was those people that I focused on to learn my career.
All right. Well, everybody who's watching, I'm speaking with Mr. Willy T Ribbs. Willy T Ribbs is a race car driving legend. He is the star of the new Netflix documentary called Uppity. I watched the documentary. I loved it. It is damn good. So if you two have ever been considered to be uppity because you stood up for yourself and stood strong in the face of racism or adversity, then this documentary is for you. Please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, everybody. Make sure you share this around, and also make sure you let everybody know about this new documentary. It's called Uppity. It's on Netflix. So, Mr. Ribbs, let me ask you this question. You had some interaction with Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby stepped up to support your racing career in an extraordinary way. And as we all know, Mr. Cosby's kind of gone through some things. the last few years. Can you speak to the role that Cosby played in your racing career?
Well, before Bill had the problems that he's been embroiled in, and he called me out of nowhere. He called me, and he this was in late 1980s. Called me and said, I like what you're doing. Where do you want to go? And I said, well, I want to be in IndyCar racing, and I want to win I want to race Indy 500. And I won everything else. Everywhere I've driven, I won races, and people will see that in the film. It was his phone call that put me in the Indy 500. And what happened to him is tragic, and it's tragic for the victims. It's tragic for him, but I cannot say anything bad about him in terms of my career, because if it wasn't for Bill Cosby, I would have never been in Indy 500. Roger Penske, none of the top teams called me up or hired me to race for them to win Indy or win an IndyCar championship. They ignored me, and he didn't. And Bill didn't like racing. He didn't like it at all. He asked me, he says, look, well, just don't ask me to come to the race. I will watch it on TV with Camille. And so I never pushed him to come to a race, although he came to 2 or 3, but in the end, he helped put me where I wanted to be. And if it wasn't, I just feel bad for everything that went on. I didn't have that I didn't know what Bill did personally with him, and I was just racing, and it was strictly business. But it's just tragic. It's tragic for everyone, and the victims, and that's all I can say on that.
Well, and I think, and I'm gonna tell you, in this space, we believe in truth, and I know that there are a lot of people. We did a survey amongst the people that follow our platform, and most of them are Black, and actually most of them feel that there wasn't enough evidence to convict Cosby. Actually, you got some Bill Cosby supporters here, not because they believe he's a perfect man, but because they believe that an imperfect man can do some really good things. And so if you look at things like Cosby's donations to HBCUs, the things he did in television, for his own people, there's a lot of respect that he can deserve as well, right? If you're gonna get him on the things that he did or might have done, then I think we can get him on the things that he did do that were good as well. And so I think it's perfectly fine that you mentioned him that way. And let me ask you about this, Mr. Ribbs. So you had another special relationship with a guy that's special to me. I have a second cousin by marriage now from my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, by the name of Muhammad Ali. And I saw in the video you doing the Ali shuffle on top of the car and mentioning Muhammad Ali as one of your mentors. And you carry a lot of that Ali energy as a race car driver. Can you speak to your interaction with Mr. Ali and how that played a part in how you carried yourself as a Black man?
I was really lucky, a doctor. Mentors just came, and it was like the angels from above brought mentors into my life. I was in England my first year racing, and the British press said, one of the guys called me and said, your hero, Muhammad Ali, is coming to London, and we would like to get a photo of you and him together. So when I met him, I met him at 6 a.m. because I knew he got up and ran through Hyde Park in the morning. So I was sitting in the lobby waiting for him, and he came out of the elevator in his tracksuit. And I said, "Hi, champ. Are you going for a run?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Can I run with you?" He said, "No." I said, "Wait a minute. I stayed up all night." He says, and he was just by himself. I said, "I stayed up all night to run with you." He says, "Okay, but you run behind me." And so I ran behind him for about 10 minutes. What's Black boy like you doing here In London. I said, well, I'm driving racing cars. And, you? I said, yes. All the way over here? I said, yes. He says, you ever get scared? And I said, you ever been afraid of Joe Frazier? I'll knock you out for saying that. So after we ran through Hyde Park, we got back to the hotel and he says, are you hungry? I said, yes, sir. He says, come on. And he took me up. And from that moment on, and he wanted to know about racing and he'd take me in his car. He let me drive. I want to show you how good a driver I am. And oh, he was just the most magnificent human being you could ever be around. And it was all, and it fascinated him that I was doing what I was doing. And he said, it's going to be hard for you. He says, you in all white sport, you gotta be tough. And he says, just call me, let me know what's going on. When you need to talk to me, call me. And that was our relationship.
Wow. Well, it's funny. I want everybody to see. I grabbed a couple of pictures of you on the internet from back in the day. So this is Willie back when he was at his prime. Do you recognize this picture, Willie?
Yes, I do.
About how old were you?
I do. I was 35. I believe I was 35. That was 1990 in the Long Beach IndyCar Grand Prix. That was my first IndyCar race ever.
Wow. And here's let's see, I grabbed another one here. Do you recognize this one by chance?
Yeah, that was in Ohio, 1984, I believe. And in fact, I believe I won the race there.
Oh, really? Okay. So one of the things I thought was really interesting was kind of seeing the difference between driving the cars in Indy or the I guess NASCAR and things like that, and then the Formula One or sorts of cars and the Trans Am circuit and stuff like that. What's that like? How tough was that to transition over to where you're driving a car in Indy from where you were before? Like, what's that process like?
Well, I mean, technically each car is different. I mean, a NASCAR stock car, they're a big, heavy car that that handles dramatically different from, say, an Indy car. And a Formula One. One thing I did is I drove a lot of different racing cars, and Bobby Unser used to tell me, and Mario, it was Bobby and Mario and AJ. They all drove dirt cars, sprinters. They drove Indy cars. They drove sports cars, all for experience. And I drove many different types, going from a Formula One car. A Formula One car is like a F-35 fighter jet, and a stock car is like a 747. They're totally.
Wow.
That's the analogy. We're talking about fighter jet versus a passenger jet, and what the requirements are basically the same, but dramatically different to drive each vehicle. But the objective is to learn it and learn the technical side of it, what the car wants to do, and what you can do with it. It's like, it would be like a boxer. Each fighter is different, and each race car is different, and you address them differently.
Oh, okay, interesting. Well, I tell you, I learned a lot from watching the documentary, and one of the things that crossed my brain was I noticed that you called a lot of people out. Like you didn't hold anything back, and a lot of stories were told, and a lot of people had their stories told, sometimes in an unfavorable way, if you know what I mean. And but the truth is the truth. So what's that been like for you in terms of making the doc and putting it out there and calling out things that people said and did in the 70s, 80s? Has anybody come back and said that's not true, or you're lying on me, or you were harsh when you told that? Like, how's that kind of gone for you?
He's still got a chip. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, when someone says you still got a chip, is that a lie? Am I telling a lie, or am I telling the truth? Right? And I made it clear there was going to be some people that were going to be butthurt, but that's why you got a butt. Okay, that's why you got a butt, because it's going to get hurt sometimes, especially if you're not being right. And my objective was to win races, and if white supremacy, if you felt your white supremacy was an and I was an affront to it, or was I, then you're going to get, it's going to be an affront. It was in all sports, in all competitions, some elements are not left. You got to put it away. Okay. It's like this young kid, Patrick Mahomes from Kansas City. Proud of him. Proud of him. He's not thinking about anything other than winning. This other young kid down in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. Yeah, they're quit making it a black quarterback issue. That's not what it's about. They're quarterbacks, and they're there to win, and leave it at that. Leave it at that.
Interesting. So, well, yeah, I want to know more about that, because you guys are, by the way, if you just came in on speaking with Mr. Willy T Ribbs. Willy is a legendary race car driver and also the star of the new Netflix documentary called Uppity. It just came out on Netflix. Everybody, please make sure you watch it, support the documentary. Also, if you would support this channel, please share this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're on Twitter, please retweet. Facebook, please share. YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button, share, notification bell, so we can get the messages out to other people. I want to talk a little bit more about, I think what a lot of people really like about your documentary and your disposition is it's very different from what people have been fed, about that era in terms of how you respond to, racial mistreatment, right? We hear turn the other cheek, or it's not right, it's not fair, boo-hoo, you're being mean to me. And I can tell you, what I liked about you and what I liked about, when I saw you, I know the apples don't fall far from the tree. So I was really curious about your father and your grandfather. And when I saw your father and your grandfather, that put it together for me. I said, okay, that's where the apple came from. Though that's the tree that created this apple, in the sense that, because I understand that, because I have a father who's the same way. No excuses. Stop whining. You go out there, you either get it, you either take it or you don't take it. Nobody's gonna give it to you. And also I like what you said about the focus on winning, not letting people get in your head, not reacting to what everybody else is saying and doing, because those are tactics. Can you speak a little bit more to, I have a lot of respect for the courage it just takes to be a race car driver. I mean, when you see some of those crashes and the chaos that can happen, I know that you're not going to do that if you're not ready to go all the way to get what you want. Can you speak to sort of a little bit more of what goes through your mind when you're going into a competition, when you're going in there to win? People are saying things, people don't like you, they're trying to take something away from you. What goes through your mind? And I know you hit this a little bit, but I'd like to know, could you tell me even more about sort of what the thought process is of a winner?
Well, first on that subject, Bobby Unser said to me, he said he didn't know of any driver that could have dealt with what I dealt with. He says, as a race driver, you have to deal with an issue, and it's called getting hurt or dying. And with his mindset was, okay, you had an additional issue to deal with, because not only did you have to focus on not getting hurt or dying behind the wheel, but who might try to hurt you, right? Right? It's one thing to crash and make a mistake and get hurt or killed, but it's another thing to have someone out trying to hurt you or kill you. And he just could. He said it was totally unnecessary. He's probably of all the older generation, Bobby Unser was my closest mentor. He's the one that really had my back. So you deal with those issues, but I always switched it off. My attitude is, if the creator wants me out of here, I'm out of here. Other than that, creator's saying go get it on, son. And that's how I dealt with it. And, like Henry, I grew up on a ranch, and my grandfather said, if a rattlesnake bites you, you bite him back. and I was just 12, 13 years old, and me and my cousin looking at each other, well, how are we going to bite him? What you
I love it, man. I love it. So let me ask you about NASCAR a little bit. NASCAR has been accused of racism by a lot of people. I don't know enough about it to be able to comment on that, but you know a lot more about it than I do. Is some of that criticism warranted?
All of it. All
Really?
of it. They are a 1930s sport. They've got one young man in there, Wallace, no relation to George, and his name is Bubba Wallace. But there is a lot that that they can do that they haven't done. Usually, there's been a lot of lawsuits that that's been laid on NASCAR's death related to racial issues, and I know them very well, and they have never, with my performance behind the wheel and my success, NASCAR has never said, Willy T Ribbs, we want you involved with NASCAR because we think it's going to be great for our sport, like the PGA with Tiger Woods, for example. I don't think they have an interest. They don't care, and their ratings show it. Their numbers are in the toilet. They're absolutely in the toilet. So, IndyCar, they need to address the issue as well. IndyCar, nothing has changed in IndyCar since I was there. Nothing, and that was in the 90s.
Wow. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question, Mr. Ribbs, and because I know you're on the Hollywood circuit now. You got that documentary, and everybody loves it. So when you look over your career and all the years you spent racing, the battles you fought, the ups and the downs, do you have any regrets?
No, I don't. I don't. You think about in hindsight what you could have done different. I know what my wish list would have been. I wish corporate America, African Americans spend billions of dollars on General Motors and Ford and all the manufacturers. They have sat by and done nothing as well. Corporate America has done zero for African Americans in auto racing. So I want to see a change there. That's what I want to see a change. I couldn't have really done anything different. A lot of people have asked me, well, do you think if you would have been more humble, if you would have just, not been so outspoken? I said, that's the oldest trick in the book, son. Don't try that old sweep under the carpet trick. Because see, you be quiet and then you disappear. Don't. You're right. I'm going to tell it like it is, and you're going to have to just swallow it.
Well, Joe Louis tried that quiet, humble approach, and it didn't work out so well for him.
Didn't work out. It did not, and he was marginalized.
Yes, he was.
Well, this is a runaway. This one ran out. This was, the end of that story. He ran away. Right.
There you go. Well, I love it, man. I love it. And everybody, if you could please give a digital round of applause and a digital thank you to Willy, who had the nerve to put his life on the line to be uppity. And he cleared some pathways for a lot of us. The documentary is called Uppity. It's on Netflix right now. And if you're looking for something that's going to inspire you and teach you, you got to see this documentary. I saw it. It's very, very good. Alicia and I loved it. And also, I want to give thank you to Green Island Spice. Thank you for donating to the channel. I see you in there. Thank you so much. Anybody else who wants to donate and support, you can go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. So I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Willy T Ribbs. It's been great to have you here, brother. It's very good to see you again.
Thanks, Doc. And I'm going to get you behind the wheel. We're going to do some high-speed driving.
I love it, man. I'm there. You tell me. Well, you know, we both have a connection to the Urban Youth Racing School in Philadelphia. So maybe
Yep.
that's the place we'll meet up.
Yeah, we'll do it. And at the end of the day, you might be a little lighter, but you're going to be faster.
Right on. Well, I love it. I love it. Well, I'll tell you, man, I'm excited, and I can just tell you, I identified heavily with that documentary, and I identify with you. And everybody in here, please give a shout out for manhood and strength. And that's what we need in our community. And that's who we are as people. And Mr. Ribbs exemplifies that. So everybody go support and watch the documentary. And please give the man his just due. And so, Mr. Ribbs, you're welcome back anytime you want to come back. Good luck with everything. And God bless you, sir.
God bless you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.